Okay, so now that we have learned a little bit about allowing user input to make our sprites interactive, we've got a little project here in lesson 18 for the interactive card. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is review the rubric from the student resources. So teachers, if you want to use all of this, it's good. I don't usually use it that much with the activity guide. I've just found students, I obviously show them it's here. It does help with the planning, but gone are the days of me making copies of it and handing it out and finding 90% of the copies unfilled, or the students would wait until they finish their project and then go back and fill out the project guide when I required them to do it. So just to save paper and save time, I don't really hand this out anymore. But if anyone wants a copy of it, I certainly can print one out. All right. But what we do want to look at is the rubric, so that we kind of know what's expected, what's required. Okay, so again, in my class, we're not going to do the peer feedback portion, so we kind of take that out of the equation. But just like with the other rubrics we've seen, just making sure that the program is sequenced well, things are in the correct order, things that should be in the draw loop are in the draw loop, things that should not be in the draw loop are not in the draw loop. Just making sure it looks as it's intended to look. This next section, at least 3 sprites created, each with at least one property updating in the draw loop, meaning they're not just stationary, so they have some sort of movement, whether or not it's a rotation, a X movement, a Y movement, or a visible hidden type feature. Your program responds to at least 2 different types of user input. All right, your program uses at least 3 conditionals inside the draw loop. All right, 1 or more responds to user input, and 1 or more is triggered by a variable or sprite property. Okay, so then at least 3 spots are placed on the screen, and the sprites move in different ways. Okay, so making sure, if one is moving up and down, another one could move left or right or rotate. So they're not all just doing the same thing. Okay. Then other things that if you wanted to add in for an extra challenge, 2 non-sprite variables could be added in, but it's not required. Okay, so my key takeaways: I want 3 sprites that each have sort of a unique movement, 2 different types of user input, and 3 if statements with at least 1 responding to user input and 1 triggered by something to do with a variable or a sprite property. Okay, so that's kind of the details that are important to know before we get started. So we will go in, and now there are a couple of demonstrations, some examples. So we can see this one. These look like drawings. Okay, so this would be a sprite as I move my mouse. Okay, that happens. So I have a rotation. I have just like a random value. The present was based on the user input. I would consider that a similar movement to this. That's more of a buzzing, but I did see some different values there. And again, we could go in. There's nothing really to decipher from these examples. You can just kind of see different options. See, I think it does help to click through these. For time's sake on this video, you're going to be able to click on them and see what they do. So I'm not going to go through those, but we'll just go ahead and get started with our project work. Okay, so as usual, I'm going to create a probably crude and not so perfect design, but just to kind of show you what could be done. So I have an option, obviously, if I want to use a background sprite or just a solid color. For this one, I am going to just use a background color, put that inside the draw loop, and let's make it navy. Alrighty, we can run it, and there we go. All right, I'm going to create some sprites, and I need 3. So I'm going to go ahead and drag 3 out there. Okay, and I'm going to look for inspiration because I'm going to, since I did that navy blue, I'll tell you what, I'm going to change up what I was going to do, try to have some fun with it. So I'll change my, let me look and see if there's a background There's not one for a cafeteria. I was inspired by a possible food fight scene is where I was going to go. We may have to use that kitchen scene. I think that's what we'll do. So we've got a kitchen, people, okay. And we don't have too many that are similar. Let's use that one. And that one. Okay, and then we're gonna find some food. So burger. Alrighty, and I'll explain what I'm doing in just a moment. Let's see what would be fun to throw. How about a burrito? Okay. Okay, so I've got some options there. So I'm actually going to have more than the required. I'm going to have 5 sprites. All right, I'm going to call this one BG for background. I'm going to call this one person 1, person 2, burger, burrito, and I think I spelled burrito wrong. There we go. And then I want to set the animation of each. So a lot of this is in the setup, and I need a set animation. And we'll click the drop down. So I've got my kitchen. Okay, and inside I'm gonna have a draw sprites, and so it is important to have my background first. I'm going to set this person, let's do a 50, 200. Person 2, let's do 250, 200. Burger, let's do 100, 50. And this one, let's do 350, 350, just to move them around and see what I need to scale. So yes, I'm going to need to scale a good bit. So let me start doing that now. So I'm going to scale each sprite. There is a much quicker way to do this if I were to create a function and then use a parameter, but we are not there yet. So we'll do it the hard way here. All right. And this is going to be, actually I don't need to scale my background. What was I thinking? All right, person 1, let's scale that down to, let's do a 0.7. Same thing for person 2. All right, let's scale the burger down to be about a 0.3, and let's scale the burrito down to be a 0.3. All right, let's reset and run. Okay, so we can kind of see what we have to work with there. So I'm going to move my people a little bit. So a lot of this is trying to figure out what's what, what's where. That burger is still a little bit big, so I'm going to scale it to 0.8. one. I'm gonna do the same thing with the burrito. Okay, there we go. And let me move my people. So I'm gonna move person 2 over to 300, 300. All right, here we go. Okay, and now I want to use the grid. That burrito is actually in a good spot from that person. I want to move the burger to right there, so 5350 for the burger. Okay, so they each have a food item. You can kind of see where I'm probably going with this. All right, and in my initial scene, and I've got 2 different sprites that I want to add movement to. I need 3 conditionals, so kind of going through. I'm going to add some directions on the screen. All right, I'm going to do a red. And I want to make the text size a little bit bigger. Make it 20. And then we will start it at about 30, 20. And then we will have our okay. And actually, let me rethink this. So we'll do some different properties with some different sprites. Okay. Let's make our burger and our burrito invisible to start with. And then for my message, we will press space to begin. Okay. And then I will have, I'm going to do an if else here. And I'm actually going to put this, and I'm going to use a key went down. And then we'll add some different text that will be at the same spot. And we will so we'll press A. Press S. Okay. So let's reset and run and test that out. So we have press space to begin. We press space. So right now that is Let me change that around a little bit. That did not work as I wanted it to, so I'm going to have to do completely different backgrounds. So this is where I'd probably want to draw sprites again. Actually, let me do this. We'll do a different. Let me use a variable. I'm going to call this message. And my default message is press space to begin. And my initial text will be the variable message at 30. And then if key went down, we will update message to okay, let's try that out. Okay, there we go. So now it's going to be permanent. And what I need to do here is create a little bit of a text box space. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to move this over to 15. I'm going to give this a 350, 200 frame. Press space to begin. And there we can see our text will wrap for us because we added that in. Okay, and then we need some controls. So we're going to have if and we're going to do key went down A, and the key went down S. Then we're going to change our visibility properties. So A would be the burger. We're going to make it true. And then we want to give them some movement. So we want it to move and we want it to kind of move up and over. So this would be a burger minus 3. So they're moving somewhat diagonal, but not perfectly. All right, and then for my burrito, it's going the opposite way from the x standpoint. So burrito.x is going to get .x minus 5. And then I can just copy that from the burger and change it to burrito. So they each have 2 movements. And I'm going to add a rotation. It's going to get burger dot. So we're going to have it spin clockwise. Let's do a 10. And then for the burrito, we're going to have it spin the other way because it's going in the other direction. Okay, so let's reset and run. Press space to begin. So I have to keep pressing it. So I've got to figure out why that is not using just a simple so normally that should, oh, I know why, because I'm not setting a velocity, and we've not learned velocity yet. So that's why it's not doing it. So I will change my message to just say hold. I was a lesson ahead. Okay, so we've not done velocity. That's why it's... There we go. So now if we know to hold it, I'm going to change that to just key down. And that'll be a. That'll be a S. Okay, so space. Oh. That one should be a key went down. Sorry, I am all over the place. That should be a space. This should be the A. That should be the key down S. Okay. All right. Space A. There we go. S. Okay. And what I'm going to do is change the message one more time, and also I've got 2 sprites moving, so I need to make a 3rd sprite move. So I'm going to add an if, and I'm going to say if the burger.x becomes greater than person2.x, meaning it's kind of going past them, and if burrito.x is less than person1.x. That person1, person2. All right, then I'm going to make my people shake as if though they got hit. So we will do a little bit of a person1.x. It's going to get a random number. And I'm going to copy that. And that would be person2. And I'm going to look at where person2 is x value of 300. So I'm going to go 297 to 303. Person1 had an x value of 100. So I'll do 97 to 103. Okay, so space A. Okay, and now that person will kind of shake because they got hit with the food. They're kind of mad. Okay, and then either way we will update message, just say food fight. And also with both, we will increase the text size. With either case. Okay, so let's try that all again. Press space, we throw A, and then we get a food fight. Alrighty, so not really a card, but as we kind of stumbled through that, I do apologize for my lack of efficiency on this one. It took me a minute to remember I was doing a counter pattern and not velocity, which we'll see in the next lesson. So that should meet the requirements. I've got 5 sprites technically, the background does nothing, but I've got multiple properties assigned to them. I also am using a separate variable for the message so that it can change as things happen, and just put it in that same spot. So that's a much easier way than having to like include text messages and if statements and worry about deleting one. We can just set the text outside of any conditionals to just say message, and then it changes based on a condition. All right, so that one would get credit. I hope to see some that are better done. Again, this one, just kind of showing you what we can do to meet the requirements. And again, if I had a lot of time, I'd probably try to modify my people sprites and maybe draw on like a splatter and make the sprite invisible again when it touched it. Just kind of some ideas you could have. All right, but again, I am bad about doing this with the project work. I kind of do everything on the first level. If you were going through level by level, it will kind of prompt you what to do each time. But that's at least an idea, and kind of shows you what all is involved in this project.